Commander Jacob Hayes stood in front of the massive black structure. His breath formed small clouds in the cold air of the alien planet. The team had found this thing 3 days ago, buried deep under the surface of Kepler 442b. Nobody knew what it was, but it was still working after being underground for at least 50,000 years. Lieutenant Amy Carson checked her equipment and called out to him. "Commander, the readings are crazy. This thing is giving off more energy than our entire base. I've never seen anything like it in our databases." Jacob walked closer while his team spread out behind him. They had come to this distant world to start humanity's first colony here. What should have been a simple survey mission had turned into the biggest discovery in human history. The black structure was covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when you looked at them from different angles. Dr. Peter Wong, their language expert, had been studying the symbols non-stop. He ran his gloved hand along the markings and muttered to himself, "It's like whoever made this knew we were coming. These symbols look similar to dozens of languages from Earth, but they're older than all of them." When Jacob stepped within 3 meters of the structure, a loud humming sound got stronger. Suddenly, a beam of blue light shot out from the top and covered him completely. His team rushed forward, but Amy held them back. "Wait, his vital signs are normal. It's scanning him." Inside the light, Jacob felt a strange tingling all over his body, like every part of him was being examined. Information flooded into his mind. He saw images of galaxies, civilizations rising and falling, and heard a question in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. "Are you worthy to inherit the legacy?" Then the light disappeared. Jacob stumbled and Amy rushed to help him. Before anyone could speak, the symbols on the black structure started changing. They rearranged themselves into English words. Scanning heir apparent. Analyzing genetic markers. Searching historical records. The team watched in silence as line after line of text appeared and disappeared. Then everything stopped. The humming went quiet. For a moment, there was complete silence. New words appeared bigger than before. Error, lineage not found, recalibrating, impossibility detected. Creator signature identified. Protocol unknown. System entering standby mode pending resolution. "Creator?" Amy whispered. "What does that mean?" Jacob stared at the structure. During the scan, he had seen something strange. A flash of memory that wasn't his. He saw a laboratory with scientists working fast. He saw a computer screen that made his blood cold. It read, "Project Genesis Human DNA Template Upload 94% complete." "I think we just found out that humans didn't evolve naturally," he said slowly. The news spread through the colony quickly. Within hours, the United Earth Command classified everything about the site. Dr. Helen Martinez arrived from Earth. She was the best expert on alien technology. She brought soldiers and enough equipment to study a small moon. "This is impossible," Helen said for the 3rd time while looking at the data. "The genetic markers this thing is talking about are 50,000 years old, but they match yours exactly, Commander. Not similar, exactly the same." Jacob sat in the temporary lab they had built around the structure. He held a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Sleep was hard since the scan. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw things he shouldn't know. He saw networks of structures like this one all across the galaxy, all connected, all waiting for something. "The structure called me a creator," Jacob said. "But I didn't create anything. I'm just a colony commander who was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "Or the right place," Peter said, walking over with his tablet. "I've been comparing the symbols on the structure with ancient texts from Earth. Jacob, every major civilization on Earth has myths about sky people who came down and gave humans knowledge. What if those weren't myths?" Helen looked worried. "You're saying we're descendants of whoever built this network?" "I'm saying we might be more than descendants," Peter replied. The structure didn't find a lineage. It found a creator signature. That means somewhere in Jacob's DNA is information that says he's not an heir to this technology. He's one of the beings who made it. Amy spoke up from where she had been quiet. "But that would mean humans built this 50,000 years ago." "That's impossible. We were barely using stone tools back then." "Unless," Helen said slowly with a look of horror on her face, "the humans who built this weren't from Earth at all." The words hung heavy in the air. Jacob stood and walked to the structure. He pressed his hand against it. It felt warm to his touch, and he felt that same tingling sensation again. "There's something else," he said. "During the scan I saw things. Memories that aren't mine. I saw a laboratory, but not a human one. The beings working there looked human, but different. Taller, with more refined features. They were arguing about something called the seeding protocol. Seeding? Helen's eyes went wide. As in seeding planets with life? Jacob nodded. They were creating something. A species designed to survive, to explore, to spread across the stars. But some of them opposed it. They thought it was too dangerous. And then, he stopped, his face going pale. Then what? Amy pressed. Then I saw war. Ships burning in space, planets dying. In the final moments, I saw them uploading themselves into a genetic repository. They were dying, their civilization collapsing, but they didn't want their legacy to end. So they encoded themselves into the DNA of their creation. Into us, Helen sat down hard. You're saying humanity is a backup drive for an extinct alien civilization? Not extinct, Jacob corrected, meeting her eyes. Dormant. We're not their descendants or their heirs. We're them, just rebooted. And this structure has been waiting 50,000 years for one of the originals to come back online. The implications were huge. If Jacob was right, then every human alive carried the genetic memory of an ancient race within them. They weren't exploring the stars as newcomers. They were coming home. The question is, Peter said quietly, what happens now that the structure has found you? What's it going to do? As if answering his question, the structure pulsed with light again. New text appeared. Creator confirmed. Initiating awakening protocol. Warning, full memory restoration may cause psychological trauma. Authorization required to proceed. Time until automatic activation, 72 hours. Jacob stared at the countdown that appeared. In 3 days, whether he wanted it or not, he would remember everything. He would know exactly who and what humanity really was. We need to contact Earth Command, Helen said, moving toward the communication equipment. But Jacob wasn't listening. He was watching the structure where new symbols were forming. Somehow he could read them now as easily as English. Welcome home, Creator. Your empire awaits. The Emergency Council met in orbit on the ESS Horizon, the biggest ship in Earth's deep space fleet. Captain Lisa Bennett ran the meeting. Her experienced face showed none of the worry that everyone in the room felt. Government leaders, military commanders, and scientists all gathered in the war room. They watched Jacob Hayes on the holographic display from the planet below. Let me make sure I understand this, Admiral Frank Cooper said with anger in his voice. You're telling us that humanity isn't from Earth? That we're some kind of genetic time capsule for an alien race? That's what the evidence shows, sir, Helen replied through the communication link. The structure's scans confirm that Commander Hayes has genetic markers that are 50,000 years old, but match his current DNA exactly. It's impossible unless those markers were deliberately inserted. And this countdown? Lisa asked. What happens when it reaches 0? Jacob stepped forward on the screen. Based on the memories I've already received, the structure will unlock the full genetic memory stored in my DNA. I'll remember everything. Who we were, what we built, why we fell, and what we left behind. And the rest of humanity? Asked Dr. Nathan Price from the World Science Council. If you carry these memories, do we all? Everyone carries the code, Peter said, appearing on another screen from the surface. But it's dormant. Jacob is the key because his genetic sequence matches the creator template most closely. He's like an administrator password made flesh. Once he's fully activated, he can potentially unlock the memories in others. The room erupted in argument. Some wanted Jacob quarantined. Others demanded the countdown be stopped. A few suggested destroying the structure before whatever it was planning could happen. Enough. Lisa's voice cut through the noise. Commander Hayes, what do you want to do? Jacob had been asking himself that question for 2 days. The partial memories he had already received showed a civilization that had reached heights humanity could only dream of. But they had also made mistakes that led to their extinction. They had been explorers, scientists, and builders, but also warriors who fought a devastating civil war. The faction that opposed the seeding protocol, Jacob began in a steady voice. They believed that creating a new species with our memories and capabilities was wrong. They thought it was cheating death. They believed any civilization that came from it would be tainted by our mistakes. Were they right? Lisa asked quietly. Jacob met her gaze through the video link. I don't know. But I do know that humans have spent the last 50,000 years creating their own path. We've made our own mistakes and our own triumphs. If I unlock these memories, will we still be ourselves? Or will we just become echoes of a dead race? Amy stepped into view beside Jacob. There's another thing to consider. The structure isn't the only one out there. Our scans suggest there's a network of these structures across hundreds of worlds. If Jacob activates, the others might activate too. We could be sending a signal across the galaxy. A signal to whom? Frank demanded. To whatever's left, Jacob replied. During the war, both sides built massive installations. Some were meant to preserve our legacy, but others... He paused as the fragmented memories showed him glimpses of weapons that could destroy worlds. Others were built to ensure that if we couldn't survive, nothing else would either. The room fell silent. You're saying there might be doomsday devices out there, Lisa said. Just waiting for someone like you to turn the key? It's possible. The memories are incomplete, but I've seen enough to know that our ancestors didn't go quietly. If I activate fully, I might trigger protocols we don't understand. Nathan leaned forward. But we might also gain access to technology that could advance humanity by thousands of years. Medical knowledge, engineering, energy production. Everything we've been struggling to achieve could be handed to us. At what cost? Amy argued. We'd be inheriting someone else's legacy, their wars, their enemies. What if the reason their civilization fell is still out there, waiting? Frank stood up. I'm ordering the structure destroyed. We can't risk— You can't, Helen interrupted. We've analyzed it. It's made from material we can't even scratch with our best weapons. Any attempt to destroy it might trigger the very protocols we're trying to avoid. Jacob looked at the countdown. 18 hours remaining. 18 hours to decide whether to embrace humanity's true origin or walk away and let the mystery remain unsolved. But could they walk away? The structure had been activated. The process had begun. There's a third option, he said slowly. What if I don't let it complete automatically? What if I authorize the awakening now but on my terms? Explain, Lisa commanded. The structure is waiting for authorization. It's programmed to respect the Creator's will. If I engage it directly, I might be able to control the process. Access the knowledge we need while keeping the dangerous protocols locked down. Might? Frank repeated. Commander, you're talking about playing games with technology we don't understand. We're already playing games, Jacob countered. The countdown is running whether we like it or not. In 18 hours, this happens with or without our input. At least this way I have some control. Lisa studied him for a long moment. And if you can't control it? If those dangerous protocols activate anyway. Jacob smiled grimly. Then I guess humanity will find out whether we inherited our ancestors' courage along with their memories. The council debated for another hour, but the decision was Jacob's to make. He was the one the structure had chosen. The one carrying the Creator's signature. As the meeting ended and others left, Lisa kept the communication line open to the surface. Jacob, she said, dropping her formal tone, we've known each other for 15 years. You served under me on the Armstrong. So I'm asking you now as a friend, are you sure about this? No, he admitted. But when has humanity ever been sure about anything? We left Earth without knowing if we'd find new worlds. We built ships without knowing if they'd hold together. We've always taken the leap, Lisa. This is just one more. Then God help us all, she replied. You're authorized to proceed. But Jacob, if this goes wrong, if you feel yourself losing control, I need you to promise me you'll find a way to stop it. Jacob looked at Amy and Peter, who had stood by him through everything. Then he looked at the structure, humming with ancient power and forbidden knowledge. I promise, he said, knowing it might be a promise he couldn't keep. With 12 hours left on the countdown, Jacob Hayes prepared to discover whether humanity was ready to learn who they really were, or if some secrets were meant to stay buried forever. Jacob stood alone in the chamber with the structure. He had ordered everyone else to evacuate to a safe distance. The humming had grown louder and he could feel it in his bones somehow. The countdown showed 30 minutes, but he wasn't waiting any longer. Jacob Hayes, he spoke clearly with his hand pressed against the warm surface, bearing the Creator's signature, hereby authorize the awakening protocol. But I set conditions. Gradual memory integration, restricted access to weapon systems, and full transparency of all activated protocols. The structure flared bright blue. Text scrolled quickly across its surface. Creator authorization accepted. Conditional parameters analyzing. Warning. Conditions not standard. Weapons lockout may compromise defense capabilities. Gradual integration may take weeks rather than hours. Transparency protocol will share data with all network structures. Confirm modifications? Confirmed, Jacob stated firmly. Acknowledged. Initiating modified awakening sequence. Beginning memory integration at 5% capacity. Warning. Even limited restoration will fundamentally alter consciousness. Proceed? Jacob took a deep breath. This was it, the point of no return. Proceed. The light covered him, but this time it wasn't just scanning. It was building, constructing, awakening something that had been sleeping in his DNA for 50,000 years. The feeling was overwhelming, like trying to pour an ocean into a cup, but the cup was expanding and growing into something more than it had been. Memories came in waves, each one building on the last. He remembered being called something else. Jacketh of the third line. He remembered standing on a planet that would one day be called Earth, but which they had known as Tertius. He remembered the debates in the Great Assembly, the vote that had split their civilization in two. "We're dying," he heard himself say in a council chamber that existed only in memory. "Our star is unstable. We have perhaps 10 generations left. The seeding protocol is our only chance at continuation." But others had disagreed. "We'll be creating slaves to our legacy," argued a leader named Vrenna. "This new species will be us, but not us. They'll carry our knowledge, our memories, our very essence, but they'll be born innocent of our sins. We have no right to burden them with our past." The memory shifted. He saw the seeding ships launching, carrying genetic material that would be carefully introduced into the evolutionary line of Tertius's most promising native species. Primitive humans with impressive adaptive capabilities. The integration would take thousands of generations, but eventually, these creatures would evolve into something remarkable, a species that carried the potential of their creators but would forge their own path. Then came the war. The opposition faction, calling themselves the Purists, saw the seeding as an abomination and moved to stop it. The conflict was brief but devastating. Entire worlds were destroyed. The Purists developed weapons designed to hunt down and eliminate anyone carrying the creator genome, weapons that still waited in hidden installations. In the final days, as their civilization crumbled, those who supported the seeding had made a desperate gamble. They uploaded their consciousness into the genetic repository, encoding their memories into the very DNA they'd given their creation. They also built the network of structures, designed to activate when the new species reached sufficient technological development. But they had done something else too. Something Jacob could feel awakening inside him now. They had included a safeguard. "Emergency protocol detected," the structure announced. "Creator Jacob Hayes possesses Keystone Authority. This individual can command all networked installations. Authority level, absolute." Outside, Helen and Amy watched from the observation post as energy cascaded across the structure's surface. "His vital signs are spiking," Amy reported with worry in her voice. "Neural activity is off the charts." Helen, his brain is reorganizing itself. He's evolving in real time." "The structure isn't just giving him memories," Helen said in awe. "It's completing the transformation. He's becoming what the creators were supposed to be." On the horizon, alarms went off at every station. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting activation signals across the sector. Multiple structures are coming online. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. They're all responding to something." Lisa rushed to the display. Across known space, markers appeared where human ships had detected similar structures on other worlds. One by one, they were all awakening. "It's Hayes," Frank said grimly. "His activation is triggering a cascade effect across the entire network." Back in the chamber, Jacob opened eyes that glowed with soft blue light. The integration was only 5% complete, but it was enough. He understood now. Understood everything. "The Purists," he spoke, his voice carrying strange harmonic tones. "They're not gone. They uploaded themselves too, just like we did. They've been waiting dormant for the activation. And now, as if summoned by his words, the structure displayed a new message. Warning, hostile signatures detected. Purist protocols initiating across 23% of network. Weapons systems activating. Estimated time until strike capability, 47 hours. Recommendation: assume Keystone Authority and issue network-wide countermand." Amy burst into the chamber despite the danger. "Jacob, what's happening?" "We're detecting power buildups on at least 50 different worlds. Some of those planets have human colonies. Jacob turned to her, and for a moment Amy saw something alien looking out through her friend's eyes. But then he blinked, and it was just Jacob again. Mostly. The purists built doomsday weapons into some of the structures, he explained, his voice returning to normal, though keeping a strange echo. They're programmed to eliminate anyone carrying the creator genome, which means every human alive. Can you stop them? Yes. But if I take full Keystone authority, if I access the complete network and shut down their protocols, I'll have to integrate more of the memories. Faster than is safe. And I'll have control over technology that could reshape the galaxy. He looked down at his hands, which seemed to crackle with barely visible energy. Amy, I'm barely holding on to who I am now with just 5% integration. If I go further, you might stop being human, she finished. I might stop being Jacob, he corrected. But if I don't, millions will die. Outside, Peter's voice came through the communication system. Jacob, we're detecting another problem. Some of the human colonists on worlds with structures are starting to activate too. Their DNA is close enough to the creator template. It's random, unpredictable. We could have hundreds of people undergoing what you're experiencing all at once with no preparation. Jacob closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the choice before him. Remain mostly himself and risk the purest weapons killing everyone. Or embrace the transformation fully and possibly lose his humanity in the process. There has to be another way, Amy insisted. There is, Jacob replied, a plan forming in his enhanced mind. I don't take full authority alone. I share it. What do you mean? The Keystone Authority can be distributed across multiple individuals. If I can find others with close genetic matches and help them integrate safely, we can form a council. No one person would have absolute power, and we could pool our knowledge while keeping each other grounded in our humanity. Helen's voice came over the radio. Jacob, that's brilliant, but we don't have time to search for the right candidates. The purest weapons will be online in less than 2 days. We don't need to search, Jacob said, pulling up a holographic interface that appeared from the structure in response to his thought. The network has already identified them. There are 12 humans across the colonies with genetic sequences close enough to mine to share Keystone Authority, including 2 on this planet. He displayed the profiles. One was Amy, the other was Peter. Amy stared at her own genetic profile floating in the air. I'm one of them? The creators didn't put all their trust in one person, Jacob explained. They distributed the core templates across multiple genetic lines. Each of us carries a piece of what they were. Together we can be what they hoped we'd become, but on our terms. Then what are we waiting for? Peter said, entering the chamber. Let's save humanity and figure out the rest later. Jacob looked at his friends, the people who would share this impossible burden with him. Once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be responsible for technology and knowledge that predates human civilization. We'll be the bridge between what we were and what we might become. Amy smiled, though her eyes showed fear. Isn't that what we signed up for when we left Earth? To discover the impossible? Then let's discover it together, Peter added. Jacob initiated the sequence that would find and activate the other 10 candidates across human space. In orbital stations, colony domes, and deep space vessels, ordinary people would soon face the same choice he had. But they wouldn't face it alone. Network, he commanded. Initiate distributed Keystone Authority. 12 nodes. Begin integration protocols for all candidates. And send them a message from me. The structure hummed in compliance. Message? Jacob thought for a moment, then spoke words that would be sent across the stars to 11 strangers who were about to have their lives changed forever. You've been chosen not because you're perfect, but because you're human. What you'll learn may terrify you. Who you might become may. 3 weeks had passed since the awakening. Jacob stood on the observation deck of the newly built station that humans had started calling the Keystone. It orbited around Kepler 442b. Below him, the planet was busy with activity as thousands of researchers worked to understand the revelations coming from the structure network. He was different now. They all were. The 12 who had accepted Keystone Authority had each integrated about 30% of their genetic memories. It was enough to access vast databases of knowledge, but not so much that they had lost themselves. Mostly. You're thinking too much again, Amy said, walking up beside him. Her eyes occasionally flickered with that same blue glow they all shared now. Let me guess. You're wondering if we made the right choice? Every day, Jacob admitted. We shut down the purest weapons, saved the colonies, and gained access to technology that will advance humanity by centuries. But at what cost? We're not quite human anymore, Amy. We're not quite the old creators either, she said. We're something new. Isn't that what they wanted all along? A holographic alert appeared before them. Peter's face materialized. Council meeting in 10 minutes. We've got a situation. In the council chamber, the 12 gathered. Some were physically present. Others appeared as holographic projections from across human space. Jacob recognized Kyle Morrison from the Mars colony, Linda Shaw from the asteroid mining station Vesta, and Greg Chen from the deep space research vessel Discovery. The others were scattered across a dozen worlds, but all connected through the structure network. What's the situation? Jacob asked as the meeting started. Linda spoke first, looking serious. We've detected an anomaly in the structure network. Sector 447, at the far edge of explored space. One of the installations isn't responding to Keystone Authority. In fact, it's actively blocking our access. A malfunction? Kyle suggested. That's what we thought at first, Peter replied, pulling up data streams. But it's not random. The installation is operating under protocols we don't have in our inherited memories. And it's not alone. We've identified 17 installations across the galaxy that are operating independently. Jacob felt a chill. The purists? We disabled their weapon systems, Greg said. But there might be something else. Something neither faction recorded in the genetic repository. A new voice entered the conversation, Dr. Helen Martinez attending as an advisor. We've been analyzing the historical records from the integrated memories. There was a third faction mentioned in some fragments. They called themselves the Observers. Observers? Amy frowned. I don't remember anything about them. That's because they weren't part of either the creators or purists, Helen explained. They were a secret group that opposed both sides. They believed that creating humanity was wrong, but also that destroying it was equally wrong. Instead, they wanted to watch, to remain hidden and observe how humanity developed without interference. Until now, Jacob said, understanding dawning. We activated the network. We took Keystone Authority. We announced ourselves to the galaxy. And now they're responding, Linda finished. The question is how? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. The structure on Kepler 442b suddenly displayed a message that bypassed all of Jacob's security protocols. Greetings, new architects. We are the heirs of the Observers. For 50,000 years we have watched the experiment that is humanity. You have exceeded all projections. You have taken the gift of the creators and built something beautiful. A civilization founded not on inherited glory but earned progress. However, by activating the network, you have drawn attention to yourselves. Attention from forces beyond this galaxy who still remember the war that consumed your creators. They are coming. You have approximately 5 years to prepare. Use the knowledge you have inherited wisely. The Observers chose not to interfere before, but circumstances have changed. We will meet you at the coordinates attached to this message. Come alone, Jacob Hayes, Keystone Prime. It is time you learned the full truth. The chamber erupted in argument and concern, but Jacob remained silent, staring at the coordinates. They pointed to a location far beyond explored space in a region where no human ship had ever gone. It's obviously a trap, Kyle argued. Or it's exactly what they say it is, Amy countered. A chance to learn what the Observers know. Information we need if something's really coming for us. Jacob made his decision. I'm going. Like hell you are, Amy protested. Not alone. The message was specific. And since when do we follow the rules of mysterious aliens who've been spying on us for 50,000 years? She crossed her arms. You're Keystone Prime, Jacob. You're too important to risk. If anyone goes, it should be someone else. No, Jacob said firmly. I carry the strongest creator signature. If there's anyone they'll talk to, it's me. But Amy's right about one thing. I'm not going alone, he turned to Peter. You're with me. The rest of you continue working on understanding the network. If these Observers are telling the truth, we have 5 years to get humanity ready for something big. Start coordinating with Earth Command. We need to accelerate our technological advancement. And if they're lying, Greg asked. If this is a trap? Jacob smiled grimly. Then I guess you'll all have to save humanity without me. The journey to the coordinates took 3 weeks, even with advanced propulsion systems. Jacob and Peter traveled aboard the research vessel Pioneer with a small crew who weren't told the full details of their mission. As they approached the location, sensors detected something impossible. A massive structure floating in the void between stars. It was much larger than any structure they had seen before, like a space station or perhaps a ship, built from the same black material. Reading power signatures, the pilot reported. It's active, and it's hailing us. Jacob authorized the connection. The view screen filled with a face that was almost human, but not quite. The being's features were refined, elegant, and their eyes held the weight of ages. "Welcome, Jacob Hayes," the being said. "I am Curator Vane, last of the observers. You have questions. I will provide answers. But first you must understand the context of the war that destroyed your creators." The view screen shifted, showing images of the galaxy as it had been thousands of years ago. Your creators, the race you call the architects, they were not the first intelligent species in this galaxy. They were not even the first to achieve travel between stars. They were, however, the most ambitious. And what do you mean? Peter asked. They sought to spread life throughout the galaxy, to seed worlds with their essence to ensure their legacy would never truly die. The seeding protocol that created humanity? It was one of thousands. They seeded hundreds of worlds, creating countless species, each carrying fragments of their genetic memory. Jacob felt his blood run cold. There are others like us? Were, Vane corrected. Most failed. The genetic integration was too unstable, or the native species were incompatible, or the purists found and eliminated them. Of all the seeding attempts, only 3 succeeded in producing viable civilizations. Humanity is one. The other 2, Vane hesitated. The other 2 were contacted by the wrong people. Who? Jacob demanded. The Devourers, an ancient race from another galaxy, who view any civilization built on genetic engineering as an abomination. They destroyed the other seeded worlds and have been systematically eliminating any traces of the creators for 10,000 years. When you activated the structure network, you sent a signal across known space. The Devourers heard it. The implications were staggering. Humanity had just painted a target on itself. Why didn't you stop us? Peter asked. If you knew this would happen. Because humanity deserved the choice, Vane replied. You could have remained ignorant, safe but limited, never knowing your true potential. Or you could embrace your heritage and face the consequences. You chose knowledge. Now you must face what comes with it. Jacob's mind raced through the inherited memories, searching for anything about the Devourers. There, fragmentary records of a war fought long before the creators' civil conflict. A war they had barely survived. How do we fight them? He asked. You don't, Vane said bluntly. Not yet. Your technology, even with the knowledge you've inherited, is centuries behind what you'll need. But you have something the old creators never had. Time to prepare, and the knowledge of what's coming. The Devourers move slowly, methodically. They'll send scouts first, then assessment fleets. You have those 5 years, and after that humanity will face its test. You will either rise to become the true heirs of the creators, surpassing even what they achieved, or you will fall like all the others. Vane leaned forward. But here's the secret the observers learned over 50,000 years of watching. Humanity is stronger than your creators ever were, precisely because you built yourselves. You earned every advancement, made your own mistakes, learned your own lessons. The genetic memory you carry now? It's a tool, not a replacement for who you are. Use it wisely. The curator transferred vast amounts of data to the pioneer. Tactical information about the Devourers, advanced technological specifications, and historical records that filled in gaps the genetic memories couldn't. One final thing, Vane said as the transmission prepared to close. The observers are few now, scattered and hidden, but we will be watching. The transmission ended, and Jacob sat in silence, processing everything. 5 years. 5 years to prepare humanity for a war that would determine whether their species survived. So, Peter said quietly, what do we tell the others? Jacob stood, straightening his uniform. The truth, all of it. Humanity deserves to know what's coming. He looked out at the stars, seeing them now with eyes that held 50,000 years of memory and 5 years of future to prepare for. And then we get to work. We've been given the most comprehensive database of advanced technology, and a deadline that can't be missed. It's time humanity proved that we're not just the children of the creators. We're the generation that surpasses them. Back on Earth, the Council convened an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. For the first time in human history, the leaders learned they were not alone, had never been alone, and were about to face a test that would determine the fate of their species. The age of innocence was over. The age of trial was beginning. But as Jacob looked at the faces of his fellow humans, some afraid, some determined, all united in their refusal to go quietly, he felt something his inherited memories confirmed the old creators had lost. Hope. They had 5 years to prepare, and Jacob Hayes, bearing the memories of an ancient race but the heart of a human being, intended to make every moment count. The first year was chaos. The revelation that humanity was a created species sent shockwaves through every society on Earth and the colonies. Religions struggled to reconcile their beliefs with the new truth. Governments scrambled to understand the political implications. Regular people tried to grasp what it meant to be the product of alien genetic engineering, but humanity adapted as it always had. The 12 architects worked tirelessly, translating the inherited knowledge into practical applications. Ship designs improved dramatically. New weapons were developed. Defense systems were upgraded across every human world. Jacob spent most of his time coordinating with military leaders and scientists. The data from Curator Vane painted a grim picture. The Devourers were a force unlike anything humanity had faced. They had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than what humans were now. Their technology was built for one purpose: complete annihilation of species they deemed unnatural. "We need to think differently," Amy said during one strategy meeting. She had become the lead tactical coordinator for the defense initiative. The old creators fought the Devourers in traditional ways. Ship-to-ship combat, planetary defenses, they lost. "We can't fight the same war and expect different results." "What are you suggesting?" Kyle asked from his position at Mars Command. "Guerrilla tactics on a galactic scale," Amy replied. "We're smaller, more mobile. We use that. Hit-and-run attacks, hidden bases. We make ourselves a target that's too annoying to pursue." "You want us to be pests?" Linda said with a slight smile. "I want us to survive," Amy corrected. "Pride won't matter if we're extinct." The strategy shift was controversial but necessary. Human forces began training in new tactics. Small, fast ships replaced the few large vessels they had been building. Colonies were fortified but also given evacuation protocols. Nothing was considered permanent. Everything was designed to be abandoned if necessary. By the second year, the first scouts appeared. The Devourers sent unmanned probes into human space, scanning, analyzing, cataloging. Jacob gave strict orders not to engage them. Let them look. Let them underestimate what humanity was becoming. The probes transmitted their data back to Devourer space. The reports would say humanity was a young species, barely expanding beyond their home system, technologically primitive compared to the great civilizations the Devourers had destroyed before. The reports would be wrong, but that was intentional. "We're laying false trails," Peter explained to the Earth Assembly. "Every probe that comes through sees what we want it to see. Our real shipyards are hidden in asteroid fields. Our actual colonies are concealed. What they're scanning is bait." The third year brought unexpected allies. Other species, ones who had hidden from the Devourers for generations, began making contact with humanity. They had watched the activation of the Creator Network. They knew what was coming, and they offered help. The Krell, a reptilian species who had survived Devourer attention by hiding their homeworld's location, provided intelligence on Devourer fleet movements. The Varan, energy beings who existed in a form the Devourers couldn't detect, offered to serve as advanced scouts. The cooperation was tentative at first, but grew stronger as the deadline approached. "It's ironic," Helen observed during one council meeting. "The creators tried to spread their legacy by seeding hundreds of worlds. Most failed. But in facing the Devourers, humanity is building something the creators never achieved. A true alliance of different species. By the fourth year, the architects had integrated 40% of their genetic memories. It was a dangerous level. Jacob could feel the pull of the creator consciousness, the temptation to become fully what they had been. But he resisted. They all did, because becoming the creators meant losing what made humanity special. "We're walking a tightrope," Jacob told Lisa during one of their regular check-ins. She had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth Defense. "Too little integration and we don't have the knowledge we need. Too much and we lose ourselves. How are you holding up?" Lisa asked with genuine concern. "Some days I'm not sure where Jacob ends and Jacob begins," he admitted. "But then I look at what we're building here. The creators never had this. They were powerful, advanced, but they were alone. We have each other. We have allies. We have something worth fighting for that's bigger than just survival. That's very human of you, Lisa said with a smile. That's the point, Jacob replied. The fifth year arrived faster than anyone wanted. Long-range sensors detected the Devourer fleet entering the outer edges of known space. It was massive. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humanity had built. The assessment fleet, come to determine if humanity was worth the effort to exterminate. All forces to ready positions, Amy commanded from the ESS Legacy, humanity's flagship. Around her, a fleet of 300 human ships held formation. It looked impressive, but everyone knew it was a fraction of what the Devourers brought to bear. Jacob stood in the command center on the Keystone, connected to every ship, every station, every defensive position humanity had built. The 12 architects were linked through the network, their combined consciousness able to coordinate the defense in ways no traditional command structure could match. This is it, Kyle said quietly. 5 years of preparation comes down to this moment. Remember the plan, Jacob said calmly. We're not trying to win. We're trying to make them think we're not worth the effort. The Devourer fleet approached slowly, methodically scanning everything in their path. They saw the human defenses. They saw the ships. They calculated odds and determined the outcome before the first shot was fired. Humanity would fall in less than 6 hours. But humanity had learned something the creators never had. Sometimes the best way to win was to change what winning meant. Execute Phase 1, Amy ordered. Across human space, the false colonies humanity had built specifically for the Devourers to find began transmitting distress signals. The real colonies, hidden and shielded, went silent. The bait was set. The Devourer fleet split, sending attack groups to the false colonies. They found empty buildings, fake technology, and sensor echoes designed to mimic life signs. By the time they realized the deception, human ships had already struck at their supply lines. Phase 2, Jacob commanded. From hidden positions in asteroid fields and gas giants, human forces emerged, not to engage directly but to harass, to confuse, to make every meter of space a potential threat. The Varen scouts fed real-time intelligence on Devourer positions. The Krell jamming technology disrupted their communications. The battle that followed wasn't glorious. It was messy, chaotic, and desperate. Human ships were destroyed. Stations were lost. People died. But humanity didn't break. They adapted, shifted, changed tactics faster than the Devourers could respond. They're pulling back, Linda reported from Vesta Station. The main fleet is regrouping. Jacob felt it through the network. The Devourer fleet was reassessing. They had come expecting a quick extermination of a primitive species. Instead, they had found a coordinated defense that utilized tactics they hadn't seen before. More importantly, they had found a species that refused to fight on Devourer terms. Incoming transmission, Peter announced. It's from the Devourer command ship. The view screen activated, showing a being that looked like it was made of crystalline structures and dark energy. When it spoke, the words were translated by systems the creators had built. Species designated humanity. You have demonstrated sufficient capability to warrant negotiation, rather than immediate extermination. State your terms for surrender. Jacob stepped forward, every eye on him. This was the moment. The choice that would define humanity's future. We don't surrender, he said clearly. We propose an alternative. Leave our space. We won't pursue. We won't seek conflict. But if you return with hostile intent, we will ensure the cost is too high to justify. The Devourer being was silent for a long moment. You threaten us? Your fleet is inferior. Your technology is primitive. We could destroy you.